Okay, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. At this time, I'd like to remind council, municipal staff, and members of the public in attendance that this electronic public meeting is being live streamed to the public. A video recording of this meeting will be available to the public on the township's YouTube account. I'd like to thank the applicants for their patience and understanding of the need to organize this meeting through the use of technology. The municipality has made every effort to ensure all affected property owners were informed and are able to participate in the planning process. Sue, could you read the note, please?
Yes, through the chair. One of the purposes of the Planning Act is to provide for planning processes that are open, accessible, timely, and efficient. Accordingly, all written submissions, documents, correspondence, emails, or other communications, including your name and address, form part of the public record and will be disclosed, made available by the municipality to such persons as the municipality sees fit, including anyone requesting such information. Accordingly, in providing such information, you shall be deemed to have consented to its use and disclosure as part of the planning process.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to do the First Nations land acknowledgement. As we gather today, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history. And we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest this morning?
No.
Okay, Councillor Bromwich? Okay, thank you. So seeing none, the purpose is to hear persons' comments in regards to a request for a minor variance with respect to the provisions of zoning bylaw number 2006-26 as amended. The application made by the applicant owner, Angelo Mosca and Sherry Gray, County of Renfrew, file number A-3/22. And I'll turn it over to Lindsay to speak to the file.
All right, so the nature and the extent of the relief being sought from the provisions of the bylaw are to enlarge the existing deck within the 30-meter water setback from Trout Lake, to reduce the water setback from 30 meters to 20 meters. So notice was given for the public meeting to all affected property owners within 60 meters of the property, as well as the public body's notice was also given out. The notice was posted by township staff on June 30th, and then I have completed a planning report. Do you want me to share my screen for the report? I'll just have to wait for Glenn to let me.
Should be able to now, Lindsay.
All right, can you see this?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll just briefly, as we talked about the subject property, it is at 248 Wilton Drive. It is designated as rural in the County of Renfrew official plan and zoned residential 1. As mentioned before, the details of the minor variance. So it is to enlarge existing deck within the 30-meter setback, and the deck addition would not go closer to the existing setback of the current deck, and then a roof will also be added. So section 3.28B is a moderately sensitive lake policy, which requires a minimum water setback of 30 meters for all building structures, and they're supposed to have it as 20. So the subject property is a residential lot that is approximately 1,400 square meters in area and has road frontage on Wilton Drive, and then it has water frontage on Trout Lake. There is an existing deck or an existing cottage with deck on the property, and as well as a wooden shed and a storage shed. The property is serviced by well and a septic system. So showing on this sketch here, it's kind of a little small. It shows the existing cottage as well as it's showing the existing deck in purple. And then the yellow is what they're proposing to expand. And this is Trout Lake over here on the right. This just shows you the location and the surrounding uses of the property. So we have Trout Lake, and then there's some residential development going along the lake, and then rural lands on the southwest side. So in the official plan, the property is designated as rural. So rural permits a variety of uses, including low density residential. The official plan also has policies regarding water setbacks. So section 2.211B of the official plan generally requires that all buildings and structures are set back a minimum of 30 meters from the high water mark. And then for existing lots of records where the development is proposed to decrease the 30 meters setback, the report could be required, it may be required to demonstrate that there's no negative impacts. Trout Lake is designated as a moderately sensitive lake or a near capacity lake in the official plan. So again, it just has a requirement of a 30-meter water setback. The property is zoned residential 1 in the township's zoning bylaw. It does permit a single detached dwelling. So it here just provides the minimum lot area requirements. It's an existing lot, so we are good with that. So section 3.28B applies to moderately sensitive lakes within the township, and it shows that Trout Lake is part of that. So no more than one single detached dwelling is permitted, and minimum water setback of 30 meters is provided. So just moving into our planning comments. So section 45.1 of the Planning Act provides that a committee of adjustment may authorize a minor variance from the provisions of the zoning bylaw if the request maintains the general intent and purpose of both the official plan as well as the zoning bylaw. The development is considered to be desirable and appropriate for the lands, and then it is also in fact minor. So the applicant is proposing to expand their existing deck, which will increase the deck size from 29.7 square meters to 37.2 square meters in size. A roof is also proposed to be added to the deck. The existing deck is located approximately 20 meters from the high water mark of Trout Lake. And then this proposed addition is not proposed to be any closer to the water, and it will be in line with the existing deck. As mentioned before, Trout Lake is a near capacity lake in the OP, as well as a moderately sensitive lake in the township zoning bylaw, and they do require the 30-meter setback. So rather than having a cost report completed, since this is just for an addition to the existing deck, and it's not going to be any closer to the water, we have required the following mitigation measures. So for eavesdropping to be installed on the existing building as well as the proposed deck, and that will direct the runoff away from the water and away from the neighboring properties. So the downspouts should be directed into, say, a dry well or a rain garden, or any other feature that will allow the water to go into the soil as well as instead of going into the land. A second mitigation measure is the extent of the exposed soils is to be kept at a minimum at all times, and revegetation of the native trees and species of exposed non-developed areas is to be achieved as soon as possible. And then the last one is the erosion and sediment control measures, which are a critical component of the construction work. So effective sediment and erosion control measures are to be maintained until complete revegetation of the disturbed areas is achieved. They can also use silt fencing as to be installed along the edges of the work areas. So the expansion of the deck will not be moving any closer, as we mentioned, to Trout Lake, and will meet the minimum interior side yard requirements for the zoning bylaw. However, based on the sketch, it appeared that the rear yard setback of 7.5 meters to the rear property line will not be met. So it's just a line in the decision, if the committee would like to grant this, that the rear yard setback is required to be reduced to match the same depth, to be equal to the 20-meter setback. So there's not a specific number, it's just the statement saying that, so that a survey doesn't have to be done to maintain that. So the application was circulated to the township's internal departments and no concerns were received. The application was also circulated to adjacent property owners with the requirements of the Planning Act. So we had no concerns. We did have a few people just asking, comparing the size. I had written square meters instead of square feet. So we just had some, one person ask about the location because the key map didn't get to go into the newspaper, and then just clarifying the size, as well as someone else just asked for the key map. So no concerns though. So the conclusion is that the proposal can be considered to meet the general intent and purpose of both the official plan and the zoning bylaw, as long as the above mentioned mitigation measures are implemented. So this is to protect the quality of Trout Lake and the surrounding vegetation. And as the proposed expansion of the existing deck is not moving closer to the water and is in line with the existing deck, and as long as the mitigation measures are met, the application can be considered desirable and appropriate for the lands, and also can be considered minor in nature. And I'll just leave the recommendation for the mayor. All right, I'll just stop sharing. It doesn't want to work. Right. I stopped sharing one way for some reason. But I can just go through the other options, the other things I need to. I think most of it was, so we did do the notice of public bodies and we didn't receive any comments. No written comments were received. And then the verbal comments were just clarification on the location and the size.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay. Is it possible to stop sharing screen?
Yeah, I'm just trying, for some reason, it doesn't want to. Glenn, can you stop me from sharing? I'm not sure why. There's no.
I
there's no
tried that
button.
and it didn't work. So
Yeah, there's no button here to stop.
There's nothing at the bottom?
No. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. It's like Gwen can't stop me and unstoppable today.
Well, it won't let me start sharing screen because you're sharing. So I just thought I'd check. Hang on.
That's never happened to me before.
Remember, sharing is caring.
There we go.
Yeah.
I don't know who worked
Probably
that
Gwen.
magic, but somebody works some magic, so that's great.
Thanks, Gwen.
The Gwen, the person we can't normally see. Okay, thank you, Gwen. All right, are there any oral or written presentations by those in attendance? And I guess I know Mr. Mosca is with us, but there's really nothing to speak to.
Actually, I would like to just make a comment if I could.
Sure, go ahead.
We're well aware of the sensitivity of our lake. I'm on the Lake Association, so we're well aware of the beauty and what we have and how delicate it is. So one of the things we considered when we were building this was minimal impact to the lake. And so what we've done, we're going to be installing screw piles that will hopefully minimally disrupt any of the soil and any possibility of erosion of soil into the lake. So I just want to make that comment that, you know, and so we're well aware of that. And we are going to definitely putting eaves troughs on the roof structure. So yeah, I just want to make that comment.
Okay, well, thank you, sir. We appreciate that clarification. There's no one else in attendance but you, so we'll move to questions, discussion by council. Any questions or discussion? Okay, I'm not seeing any.
Mayor Love.
Okay, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yes.
All right, then now, Sue, are you or is Lindsay going to take us through the evaluation of the application? And I would remind council you need to respond to each of the questions verbally.
I can lead council through the
Okay,
evaluation of the application. The Committee of Adjustment must consider 4 tests when reviewing a minor variance application. These tests are provided in section 45(1) of the Planning Act. The variance is minor in nature.
yes.
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 The variance is desirable for the appropriate development or use of the land, building, or structure.
Yes.
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 The variance is desirable for the appropriate, apologies, the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw is maintained.
Yes.
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 The general intent and purpose of the official plan is maintained.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I report the minor variance application meets the requirements of the 4 tests and recommend the application A322 be approved.
Okay, thank you, Sue. So our committee decision, the recommendation is to grant application A-3/22 Mosca/Gray. The council approve minor variance file number A-3/22 Angelo Mosca, Sherry Gray, as per the County of Renfrew conditions. Could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Poplinski, seconded by Councillor Wilmer. Is there any discussion on the recommendation? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, thank you. That completes our application, our first application. Thank you, Mr. Mosca. We're going to move to our next application. The purpose is to hear a person's comments in regards to a request for a minor variance with respect to the provisions of zoning bylaw number 2006-26 as amended. Application is made by the applicant owner, Marek Passion, 5041679 Ontario Incorporated, County of Renfrew file number A-2/22. And I'll turn it over to Lindsay to take us through this file.
All right. Okay. So the nature and extent of the relief being sought for this minor variance is to permit, to allow for a second dwelling on the property. So the notice of application and public meeting was sent again to all the affected property owners within 60 meters. And it was sent on June 30th. The notice was posted by township staff on the property on June 30th. And I have prepared a planning report, and I will share my screen again, and hopefully I can stop. No. All right, can we see the report?
Yes.
Okay. Going weird again on me. Right, so the property is located in part lot 22, concession 1, as well as part of lots 21 to 24, concession 2. The municipal address is 42166 Commermere Road. The County of Renfrew official plan designation is rural as well as environmental protection, and the township zone is rural and environmental protection again. So the submitted application proposes a variance to the township of Madawaska Valley zoning bylaw to allow a second dwelling unit that is 279 square meters in area to be built on the property. So section 3.7 of the zoning bylaw states that no more than one building can be used as a dwelling. And then section 17.1A is the rural zone provisions, and it does allow for a single detached dwelling. So the subject property is approximately 107 hectares in size with road frontage along Commermere Road as well as Rubyville Road. The property is heavily treed and contains an existing dwelling that is approximately 102 square meters in area. There are multiple sheds on the property. They're all located around here. And the second dwelling is proposed to be 279 square meters in area. The property is serviced by an individual well and private septic system, and the property is accessed by Commermere Road, which is shown along here. The property is surrounded by vacant woodlands, with the exception of all the residential development along Commermere Road, as well as some along Rubyville Road. So this is the sketch that was submitted with the application, and it shows the location of the old house as well as the new house shown over here. The property is designated as rural in the county official plan, which permits a range of uses, including low density residential. So the official plan was updated a little while ago to include provisions for second dwellings. So they are also known as accessory or basement apartments, secondary suites, or in-law flats. A secondary dwelling is considered a self-contained residential unit that has kitchen and bathroom facilities. So a second dwelling is permitted within a single detached, semi-detached, or row house, but it's also permitted as a separate detached dwelling. So secondary dwellings must comply with any applicable laws, and this includes the building code, the fire code, and any property standards bylaws. Section 2.224.2 states that for properties that are serviced by a private septic system and well, a secondary dwelling shall be permitted on lots that are greater than 0.8 hectares in area. Secondary dwelling is required to share the same water and sewage or septic services as the primary dwelling. However, when the property is greater than 2 hectares, they aren't required to share the same water and septic systems. So it's just important to note that a secondary dwelling may not be severed from the lot with the primary dwelling, and mobile homes and recreational vehicles are not to be considered as secondary dwellings. Section 13.32 of the official plan requires that if there's any new developments, they must satisfy the county road requirements. So the property is zoned as rural and environmental protection. The environmental protection is just like along the water here. So it's not near where the proposed dwelling is going to go. This property, the rural zone, does permit a single detached dwelling. So the reason we have for this bylaw is that section 3.7 states that no more than one building shall be used as a dwelling or containing one or more dwelling units shall be erected on any lot unless otherwise stated in this bylaw. So section 35.1 of the Planning Act does provide that a committee of adjustment may authorize a minor variance from the provisions of the zoning bylaw if the request maintains the general intent and purpose of both the official plan and the zoning bylaw, if the development is desirable and appropriate for the lands, and if the minor variance is in fact minor. So this subject property, as discussed, is a large rural lot that is primarily treed with areas that have been cleared. The subject property does contain an old building that was built in 1901. So this new secondary dwelling is supposed to be approximately 279 square meters in size, which look like, again, 3,000 square feet. So as mentioned, the official plan does permit the second dwelling unit to be a separate detached dwelling. So because this property is so large in area, they are not required to share the same well and septic. The new dwelling is supposed to be located a minimum of 400 meters from the front lot line, rear yard line, and side yard lot line. And these far exceed the minimum requirements in the zoning bylaw of 7.5 meters, and then interior side yard of 3 meters. The zoning bylaw requires a minimum of 2 parking spaces for a single detached dwelling. As we've seen, this is a huge property, so there's significant room for parking. The existing dwelling will be located 400 meters from the old dwelling. And given the setback from the existing dwelling and the setbacks from the property lines, it's not anticipated that this secondary dwelling will have any impacts on the adjacent properties. So this application was circulated to the township's internal departments and no comments or concerns were received. The application was circulated to the County of Brantford Public Works Department. I did just get comments back from Nathan from that department yesterday, and they have no comments or concerns. We circulated in accordance with the Planning Act to the public agencies and members of the public body, and no concerns were received. We did have a couple of people just asking about the size of the building as well as the key map. So in conclusion, the official plan does permit secondary dwellings as separate detached dwellings on lots that are greater than 0.8 hectares that are serviced by private well and private septic systems. This property exceeds a size requirement for a secondary dwelling, and it exceeds the setback requirements in the rural zone. So the proposed use conforms to both the County of Brantford official plan and the township zoning bylaw. As the proposed dwelling is to be located far from any property lines and no impacts are anticipated on the adjacent properties, the application can be considered to be desirable and appropriate for the lands and be considered minor in nature. See if I can stop sharing again. Oh, Gwen
Hey,
did
that
it.
worked.
Yeah, I think Gwen did it again. So I'm just going to go through the agenda. There was to the township a phone call from Sue Burkett on July 6th, and she was just confirming the building size. I work in square meters, and I had put 3,000 square meters as the building size when it's in fact 3,000 square feet. So it was just confirmed that that was just an error, and no written comments were received, and no other comments other than the confirmation of the location and the building size.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay. Yeah, a couple of people raised an eyebrow over a house that's 3,000 square meters. That'd be pretty big.
Yeah, well, the guy called me this morning. I'm like, he's like, that's a condo. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm like, I work in square meters and I apologize. And he's like, oh no, I'm fine. Like, don't worry about it. Like, thanks.
That happens. You know, mistakes are easily made when you're dealing with, as you said, if you normally work in square meters. Okay, so we're all clear. It's 3,000 square feet. Much more manageable size for a secondary dwelling. All right. Any oral or written presentations by those in attendance? We don't have anyone in attendance on this file. Questions or discussion by council? Any questions or discussion? Okay, I think
None here.
not seeing any questions. Sue, could you take us through the evaluation then?
Yes, the Committee of Adjustment must consider 4 tests when reviewing a minor variance application. These tests are provided in Section 45(1) of the Planning Act. The variance is minor in nature.
Yes.
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 The variance is desirable for the appropriate development or use of the land, building, or structure.
Yes.
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 The general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw is maintained.
Yes.
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 The general intent and purpose of the official plan is maintained.
Yes.
Yes.
I report the minor variance application A222, Eric Passion, meets the requirements of 4 tests and recommend the application be approved.
Okay, thank you, Sue. We'll do the committee decision then. The recommendation is to grant application A-2/22, Merrick Passion. The council approve minor variance file number A-2/22, Merrick Passion, as per the County of Renfrew conditions. Could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Bromwich, seconded by Councillor Schulist. Any discussion on the recommendation? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. All right, Sue, could you do the notification?
Yes, through the chair, a copy of the decision of the committee will be sent to the applicant and to each person who appeared in person or by counsel at the hearing and who has filed with the secretary treasurer a written request for notice of the decision. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment for the Township of Madawaska Valley in respect of these applications, you must submit a written request to the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment for the Township of Madawaska Valley. If a person or a public body would otherwise have an ability to appeal the decision of the Committee of Adjustment to the Ontario Land Tribunal, but the person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Madawaska Valley before the decision is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Madawaska Valley before the decision is made by the Committee of Adjustment, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I'll declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you in the